Tuesday night's best night of the week, and we welcome you to the Wise Guys, Dave McCann. Brian Logan, remember last week when we said, hey, we'd like to have you on the show again? Yeah, well, you're back. Welcome.
I spoke it into existence.
Blaine Fowler's on business out of the country, and so he's out, you're in, and the Wise Guys, megaphone of around the world goes on. And so it's good to have you with us on this brand new week. And every week there's just more and more stuff. We're so far away from football season, and yet we got plenty to talk about.
It's a boring time, but it's an exciting time as well. Boring because we don't get to see the actual game being played, but exciting because of the different headlines, right? Somebody's transferring, somebody new's coming in. We look at the NFL and you look at guys like Zach Wilson and Aaron Rodgers and the big trades that's going on there. So football, this is what I love about football. It's never an off season.
No,
right? We used to wear that growing up, having T-shirts. That there is no off season, but getting into the media and you hear the storylines. There's something new happening every day.
The McCanns make room for the Cubs. So there is a baseball season, but only until they're mathematically eliminated. So for most of our childhood, that got us through May. Now that they're good, we can at least get through July and sometimes August, and maybe in September. But it is a year-round thing now. We invite you to follow us on YouTube. Just hit the subscribe button. It's free. Click the bell, and that'll get you notifications when we post something new or when we go live. The more subscribers we get, the longer we can do the show. So we're also live tonight on Facebook, on Twitch, and Wise Guys, ysguys.com. We'll be up with the podcast tomorrow. At ysguys.com, you can follow us and get our weekly email, which is highlights of the show. Also, there are all our interviews waiting for you, including with Brian Logan, Danny Ainge, Marie Osmond, Jimmer Fredette, Ty Detmer, Kyle Van Noy, Max Hall, Elaine Bradley, Matt and Savannah Shaw, and a slew of others. They're all waiting for you at ysguys.com. On tonight's show, how about the NFL draft? It's just a few days away now. There's a lot going on for future Cougars.
I'm excited for those guys. I think more than anything, I'm excited for Jaren and him getting drafted, and what a recruiting tool that A-Rod's going to have to say, look how many guys that are in the NFL right now and that the last couple of years have got drafted, to be able to use that to go out as a recruiting tool and say, this could be you, right?
Right. Especially for them leaving early.
Right.
When you think about it, Zach went early. Jaren went early. Puka's going early. Blake Freeland's going early. Brady Christensen went early. But they go, and what do you lose? You lose those guys, which you hate, but look what you gain. You're in the business of putting guys in the NFL. And is that not why you went to college? You want to go to the show? Isn't that what everyone wants to do?
It's the only reason why.
Yeah.
I said this earlier today. If there's a kid that went to school, played football, and said that they didn't want to go to the NFL, they're lying.
Right.
They're lying.
Yeah.
They're lying. Especially they're lying to themselves, right? Like everybody that plays at this level, we have dreams of getting here, but the biggest dream, the biggest goal is getting to that next level. I
remember calling games at UNLV. And for the basketball team, and you talk to guys, and that they're all going to the show, and I'm like, dude, you're sitting at the end of the bench. You never get in.
Everybody's going to class. The league. You should have heard the conversations that I had at junior college. Everybody was like, I'm going to the league, man. Oh, when I get to the league, I'm gonna do this, and when I get to the league, I'm doing this. I'm like, yo. We're at JC right now. We're not even at a T1 yet.
Yeah, it's crazy. Brandon Doman, former BYU quarterback, he's going to join us a bit later tonight. He was drafted by the 49ers in the 5th round. So we're going to talk about getting drafted, what it's like to get the call, what he projects for Brandon Doman, or not for what he projects for Jaren Hall for this week, and also what Brandon Doman thinks about Zach Wilson and the Aaron Rodgers relationship and how that might play out. So Doman's coming up a bit later. The football team is now officially on the clock with spring practice over. The countdown's on to the Big 12. Former Cougar tight end and the father of BYU's current tight end, Byron Rex, is going to join the show tonight. There was a picture that I tweeted out of of Byron on the cart with Isaac when they took him off the field at USC with the broken ankle. And so often we have father and son great moments. Now here's a father and son tough moment that I want to talk to him about, what that was like. And Isaac's still trying to recover from that, right? He was slowed by it all last season, and he feels like he'll be ready to go in September. But what a brutal injury. But we're going to get the dad's perspective on riding on the cart out of the Coliseum.
That would be an interesting perspective. I have two boys, 11 and 7. My 11-year-old loves football, and when he makes a play, I make a play. When he misses a tackle, I miss a tackle. Obviously it's peewees, and it's not the level that we're talking about. But it'd be good to see if, as a father, if that still stays with you, at the highest level.
Yeah. We're going to find out here in just a few minutes. Bring your questions to our live stream. Again, we're on YouTube, Twitch, and Facebook. We'd love to have you chime in. A few of folks have already, and so have my kids. Happy birthday. Thanks,
Happy birthday,
guys.
Dad.
Yeah, this is a big day. It's a big day for the McCanns. And also tonight, BYU basketball lands a big commit that Colin Chandler is going to be happy about when he gets home from his mission. And we've got much, much more. Let's start with the headlines, and they start with the draft, Bilo.
NFL draft is this weekend in Kansas City. Is it always in Kansas City?
No, just this week, just this year.
Jaren Hall, Puka Nacua, Blake Freeland all have opportunities to get their names called. Draft note, 7 rounds, 259 total selections.
Out of all the college football players at all the levels, just 259. TV coverage, first rounds Thursday, 8 o'clock Eastern time on ABC, ESPN, and NFL Network. Then on Friday, the second and third rounds. That's going to be one we're going to be watching closely with Freeland and with Hall. Friday night, 7 Eastern, ABC, ESPN, NFL Network. And then rounds 4 through 7, everybody else, Saturday, noon Eastern time, it starts, ABC, ESPN, and the NFL Network. What do you think? What round do you think for Freeland? He's often been talked about as potentially the highest of the 3. And there are others, Caleb Hayes and some of the others are hoping to get their names called too. But a lot of the focus has been on the big 3.
Yeah, I think third round makes sense. It wouldn't surprise me if he went second.
Late second?
Just because of the splash and the headlines that he made at the combine, right? You put up those type of numbers and you break records, you're gonna turn some heads. And the thing why it wouldn't surprise me if he went to the second round is high as that is because he has the film to match it, right? So if you have film
and size,
right? Yeah,
he had a great combine,
right? All those things literally get shoot you up higher and higher and higher. So it wouldn't surprise me at all. And it also wouldn't surprise me if Puka went first over Jaren,
really,
just because of again he has good film. And he was making splashes again, at the Senior Bowl before getting hurt. So I think if any coach or team does their investigation and digs into the injuries, and if they could overlook that, it wouldn't surprise me.
I hope Puka goes to the Chiefs. I think that'd be great for him in that offense with Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. Jaren Hall, I don't know. I read anywhere between possibly as high as 3, maybe 5, 6. But what matters is the situation. That's what I'll be watching. Just like Tyler Algier. He didn't go until the 5th round, but he ended up starting for the Falcons and rushed for over 1,000 yards.
Right.
So situation is what I'm looking for there.
That's a good point.
It's going to be exciting. The transfer portal continues to give, and sometimes it takes, but the Cougars add Weber State offensive lineman Jake Eichhorn, 6'5", 285. He's got 3 years of eligibility, so he'll be able to come in. They'll get him up to around 300. That's where they like him, 315. So he's got to put on a few pounds, but he's coming in to add more beef to the trench, and trench warfare is what wins in P5 football.
I had an opportunity to talk to him earlier today, actually. So impressed with this kid. His maturity, his desire and his hunger to want to be great. Really, really excited to see, where he comes in, but then how he finishes, because he has this mindset of always wanting to push himself. And so been through a little bit of struggles, growing up and within his environment. I think that has shaped his personality and the qualities that you need and that you want in alignment to compete, to want to get better, and obviously to be a little nasty as well at times. So it'll be excited to see where his future lies when he's done.
Byron Rex joins us in just a couple of minutes. Before we get to him, some rule changes approved that are going to change the game. We're going to notice right away, September 2nd. Starting this fall, the clock's not going to stop after first downs. That changes a rule that's been in place since 1968. Now, Dennis Dodd of CBS reported the Rules Committee believes that allowing the clock to run after timeouts will reduce the number of plays by 7 per game. The clock will still stop on first downs with the last 2 minutes of the first half and the last 2 minutes of the game. Everything else is like the NFL, just keeps running. 7 plays. I did an article this last week. I started thinking about 7 plays. You trim from the bottom, Those 7 plays, BYU had a lot of ups and downs, but a lot of ups in the last 7 plays of a whole lot of games. And you go back to Nebraska. You go back all the way to the Holiday Bowl with Jim McMahon's Hail Mary, and all the games in between. 7 plays is a lot. What do you think will do to an offense, an offensive game plan, knowing that the clock's not going to stop?
The first thing I thought of, obviously, was from the defensive side.
Yeah.
Is 7 plays going to reduce maybe injuries or fatigue? And then I started thinking about it from the offensive side. How does that change? Up tempo, right? Do teams want to go up tempo more, or does that how would that affect play calling? Do we want to be more aggressive, right? Because the time is running out. So I don't know. I think there's a lot of unknowns with it. I don't think this is a negative thing. The only thing I see this as a positive is that we get to go home earlier.
Yeah, well, I don't like that. I say play fewer commercials if you want us to go home.
Right.
They're going to cut 7 plays out, but the timeout in the third quarter is going to be 3 minutes and 50 seconds. Trim that, especially on cold nights. But they do want the game. Everybody wants everything to speed up. They want golfers to play faster. They want baseball games to put in a pitch clock this year. They want baseball games to be reduced because, in areas, some people aren't going to the games. Yeah. Well, at Lavelle Edwards Stadium, that's not a problem. But on a late 8 o'clock start, how about we lose some of those 3-minute and 50-second commercials back to back while we're freezing to death. But also, you can't call consecutive timeouts. That's a new rule, which we usually see when they're trying to freeze a kicker. Yep. So that's out.
I like that. It's kind of annoying when coaches do that for me.
Yeah. So. Or when they psych out that everyone thinks they're going to call a timeout, then they don't. Yeah, then they're off. And penalties that occur at the end of the first and third quarters will be enforced on the first play of the following quarter. So you won't have you won't take 10 minutes to play one more untimed down at the end of the first quarter because there was a penalty. Everyone's in a hurry. They want to speed up the game. One thing that we don't want to do as we sit here in late April is think about a faster football game because that's what we love.
Right.
But we could probably do some shorter commercial breaks. TCU, by the way, has decided, now that BYU's in the Big 12, that they are not going to allow single game ticket sales for that game, BYU at TCU, and for the TCU-Texas game. This is an effort to minimize the number of Cougar fans that would buy them up and crash the party. TCU is in the Mountain West. They know what BYU fans are capable of. Were you surprised that they came out with the announcement of, here's what we're going to do. Outside of the ticket allotment that BYU's given, no more Cougar fans in the stadium.
At first I thought this was a way for them to increase their alcohol sales. Because.
But what about the Sprite vendor? He's out of luck.
Well, you know what? That's a good point too. But then as I read a little bit more into this, I saw Texas as well. So I immediately thought, well, do Texas fans travel well as well? Because Why is it just BYU and Texas?
Why can't you sell out your own small stadium?
Right.
You went in the national championship game.
It's like 25,000. That is
Just a little bit more because they expanded it out.
I was gonna say that when I played, it looked like a junior college or high school, stadium.
They've jazzed it up. I think they seat 45. But just imagine after doing all this. If when BYU takes the field, if there's a thunderous roar in there, and the Frogs sort of go, we can't stop them. Somehow they got in. It's like Christmas. The Grinch couldn't stop it.
How can
it just kept coming?
How can they determine who's a BYU fan and who's not?
Well,
you buy the tickets?
I think you have to be a ticket holder or promise future season tickets or whatever. They're calling it the Keep It Purple Day, which just means keep the blue out day.
Right.
And the burnt orange, I get that because you're right there.
Like that.
Dallas is a Texas market, but so is BYU. The alumni in the Dallas area, they would fill that stadium.
We're everywhere.
Yeah. So
literally. Listen, everybody, listen to me that's watching this. We are everywhere. Where's my camera at?
Preach, Bilo.
Where's my camera at? This one. We're everywhere. Everywhere.
Well, BYU's also getting Big 12 ready here at home, announcing renovation plans today for the student athletic building. It'll expand the football offices. The conference is bigger, the staff is bigger, the team's bigger, and the Cougars need a bigger workspace. So they announced that today, and everything's growing.
This is exciting. I think a key word here is being modern, right? These kids nowadays when they come in, if you don't have the top tier, right? If you have facilities that are even 5, 6 years old versus them going to other schools and they have state of the art. I mean, it's a big difference in perception, right? And perception is huge when it comes to recruiting. When I got recruited by my official visits, Sacramento State and then Utah State, and then I came to BYU in that order. When I came to BYU from those other schools, I was like, oh, this is another level. I was blown away, and all I could think of was like, this is big time football. It didn't even matter about Utah State's records or that Sac State was in and they were Division AA at the time. Right. Those didn't even matter. I was just like, this is what it's like to play big time ball, and having the state of the art facilities, the indoor practice facilities. So snow wasn't a problem. I was like, I don't know about the snow, but then I saw the indoor and I was like, oh, I could make it. I'm good. So
you made the right decision.
I'm happy I did.
Yeah, so am I. Here's some key dates. They'll fire up our first guest. The transfer portal closes Sunday. July 1st, BYU joins the Big 12. It's also the Stadium of Fire with Journey, July 1st. July 12th through the 13th is Big 12 Media Days in Arlington, Texas. July 18th, the NFL training camps open with rookies reporting. July 25th, after further review, kicks off its 10th season on BYU TV. How about August 3rd?
10 seasons. Wow.
Jets, Browns, Zach Wilson, Sione Takitaki, NFL Hall of Fame game.
That's interesting.
And you know what? Zach's probably going to play in that game.
Yeah. Oh,
Typically you wouldn't, but now he's the backup. And so we might see him in that first one. And then September 2nd, Sam Houston at BYU. And we'll be knee-deep and neck-deep in football once again. Our first guest is living the dream. Not only did he catch touchdown passes from Ty Detmer, John Walsh, and Ryan Hancock at BYU, but his sons Isaac and Preston are following in his footsteps, and most notably, he and his wife Amy have become grandparents for the very first time. Our pleasure to welcome Byron Rex to the Wise Guys. Byron, good evening.
Dave, how you doing? Brian, how you guys doing?
We're doing awesome. Thank you for joining us. So look, how great is it to be a grandparent?
Oh my gosh. It's easy. Everyone asks me, how is it to be a grandparent? I said, I got the easy job, and that's not the miracle that I'm a grandparent. The miracle is that Isaac's a father. So the fact that he's a dad, that's the part that shocks me. Kids raising kids, Brian and Dave, is always an interesting adventure.
So Isaac and Lexi welcomed Luca into the family earlier this month. What was that experience like from your perspective as the dad of the dad?
Well, as the dad of the dad, nothing to make you feel older than going to an alumni game on a Friday and then having a grandchild on a Tuesday. So between those two things, I have never felt older. I had no business. I was watching Brian do his thing on defense, and I was going nowhere near Brian on the other Royal team. I was Royal, I guess, shows you how much I played. And Navy was Brian's team. So, yeah, that'll make you feel old, Dave. I know you got a few grandkids of your own. But,
they're the best.
Yeah, it's awesome. Awesome.
Once they start acting like they like you more than their parents, it's the best for a grandpa.
I can't wait.
You know what? I have two boys, 11 and 7, and they have a great relationship with my mom. And I did growing up. I had a great relationship with my grandma. And I thought that I was going to dread that feeling of them liking, my mom more, but it's really the best feeling in the world. What's not the best feeling in the world is when I go and pick them up at 10 o'clock and they have Skittles and Starburst, and I'm like, I look at my mom, I'm like, Mom, do unto others. You wouldn't want Granny to do this to me when I was growing up. I said, why are you doing this to me?
It's all new rules.
And she says, you know what? I'm just getting you back for all those times you put me through, havocs, as a parent. So this is payback.
Yeah, the new rules are no rules, Dave. I think you said it best. There are no rules.
So
Isaac's in town now. In fact, he's in the other room with Keaton watching basketball right now.
Nice.
And then Lexi and her, I shouldn't probably reveal this, but do you guys know, Dave, do you know the Ords, Jonathan Ord? You know that name?
Yeah.
So, yeah. Anyway, Jonathan played quarterback with us back in the day. Andy was his brother, played with us. But Luca and Lexi are jumping on his plane and flying down tomorrow. So Luca's first flight is going to be on a private airplane.
That's tough life. Tough life, Lucas guy.
So it must be nice. Ryan and I have nothing to do with any of this. I just Isaac and Lexi have really good friends.
So how are we going to get Lucas signed to an early commitment?
Well, you're going to have to compete with basketball, I think. We may be trying to graduate. For those that don't know, he is part of the Johnson family, which Britton and Jeff Johnson were two huge stars at the University of Utah. Britton played in the league for a while, NBA, and played overseas, had a really good career. So 6'10", 6'7", his grandfather on his mom's side, 6'5", 6'6". His grandmother on his mom's side is 6 foot. His mom is 6'1". So
basketball.
That's
basketball.
We may be playing basketball.
That's okay. We got this arena that seats 20,000. He'll be welcome.
We got a basketball team too. So
my question is, and I'd ask Coach Pope this too. Can we win a few games in that darn league that is so tough next year? I mean, oh my gosh. And Dave, I heard you on an earlier podcast talking about, the places. You and Greg were talking about the places that you guys are going to visit. You know what I mean? Then Allen Foghouse and, all these places that are historic. I can't wait to go to some of the games. So, I know we have a basketball team, no doubt about it. So
when you were playing, and it was the fight to get a big name team on the schedule. And it was always the first week of September, second, and then you get into the WAC. But did you dream of a day like this? Did you ever think it would actually happen, that BYU would be in the Big 12?
No, I never thought of the Big 12 because I'm a California kid. So I always thought of the Pac-12.
Yeah.
Now, I could have seen a day until, different things got involved and beliefs, and you could say what you want about academics. I don't buy a bit of it, political or not, whatever. I could see a day when we played in the Pac-12. The Big 12 never entered my mind, but I'm not, I'm a California kid, not a Texas kid. So that entered my mind. I always knew we were big time, right? We were destined for the big time. I didn't think it would take us this long, and I thought it would have been the Pac-12 instead of the Big 12. So I could see it coming.
Well, here we are. Byron Rex, former BYU tight end, father of current Cougars Isaac and Preston, on the Wise Guys tonight, live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and wiseguys.com. I tweeted out a picture yesterday promoting our interview tonight of you and Isaac on that cart being taken off the field at the Coliseum Thanksgiving weekend 2021. Now Isaac's 6'6", 21 career touchdowns. These have been rough last couple of seasons, starting with that ankle injury at the tail end. What was it like for the dad to ride on that cart off the field?
Yeah, it's an interesting story. I've told it a few times, and now that we have, I can give you a few more of the details. So, Brian, you'll understand this, and Dave, with kids, you do anything to sort of protect your kids. And I'm raising boys. I don't have any girls. So Amy and I are raising boys. We also want them to be tough. We also want them to be, self-reliant and, do hard things and all this stuff. We raised them that way. But when you see like immediate, danger, like it's just human nature to go to it. So we were sitting on the end zone. I don't know. We were sitting on the opposite end zone. We were sitting on the USC side because there were no USC fans. You guys will remember.
Right.
We had 25 plus relatives all sitting together. And we just found a section kind of in the upper tier where we could all just enjoy the game and enjoy each other's company. Well, I saw it and I that would look kind of weird. Was he in? Was he out? Because if you'll remember, he landed on the kind of on the goal line at the end, at the edge of the end zone. So I'm like, wait, someone's not getting up. And then I see people sort of moving, and then it flashes on the big screen. I'm like, as this was happening, I start making my way towards the aisle. My phone starts blowing up. The first person I see to call was John Beck. So I'm like, I better answer. And I knew John wasn't at the game because he was out of town. So John says, hey, Byron, it's really bad. And I'm walking kind of around, sort of the end zone, the other end zone, towards the other way. And he goes, Byron, it's really bad. I'm like, John, what's really bad? He goes, Isaac broke his ankle. And I'm like, oh, okay. I said, where are you? He said, I'm with Dak Prescott in Dallas. He goes, I'm watching it on TV. And I go, oh, okay. He goes, you probably should go down there. And as soon as he said go down there, I said, thanks, John. I'll holler at you later. And I started, a steady jog at that point.
Yeah.
I came down. They were really gracious. They kind of looked at me, the aisle, the ushers. They weren't stopping me, by the way. I'm not that big a guy, but they saw the determination in my eyes. And I just hopped over the little chain link fence, went onto the field. Kalani was wonderful. Everyone was great. And I just said, hey, I'm here. And Isaac's like, Dad, what happened? I said, son, you're going to be all right. And, we carted him off and I jumped on the cart. So in the Coliseum.
So they was down on the field for some time. And I believe they put an air cast over that area. And so you're there for that. In the biggest game of the year, part of everyone's still trying to figure out, is he going to be okay? And did he get a foot down? Right. Because it was back of the end zone. And the team was playing really well. And does he look at you with the same eyes that he might have looked at you when he was a little boy and gotten hurt, and the dad's supposed to make everything okay? That's kind of how I envision something like that.
I couldn't have described it any better. It took me back. It gets me emotional right now. It just takes you back to when, the first time he fell off the tree, out of the tree, or the first time he fell off a fence, or when he was down. And your first instinct is to hover and jump, and you do that when they're young. And after a while, you're like, dude, brush it off. Put some dirt in it, rub some dirt in it, or whatever. But this one was more serious. It was that look of fear as much as it was pain. There was a lot of pain, obviously, but there was some fear, like, what just happened? You know what I mean? And your fear is, as a football player, we kind of raised the boys on football. Is it over? What does this mean? And automatically he goes to the future when I'm just trying to bring him back to, like, hey, everything's gonna be all right. We're gonna fight this. Like, don't even worry about it. Let's just, take it one step at a time. And then we go into the tunnel, and the USC people were fantastic, by the way, absolutely fantastic. All of them, the doctors, everybody was helping. And they said, do you need us to get anyone? And I said, you know what? Get Tom and Brian Santiago and Tom Hummel, and have Tom, or I have Brian bring us some oil. So for those that don't listen, that are LDS, we wanted to give them a blessing. And sure enough, they went out and came back in, and Brian and I did the blessing while Tom was kind of, holding people off. for a minute. So yeah, it was awesome.
Before you get to that, well, there's two things. One, in addition to wondering what's going to happen with his injury in football in the moment, he and Amy are going to get married like in a week. So there's that. There's life that's sitting there in the end zone as he's on his back, and gotta I just can't imagine it's a perfect storm, and then you get on the cart starts to leave, and then here comes the applause, and certainly full of Cougar fans, and Isaac raises his hand to say he's going to be all right, and what was that moment feeling the love of the audience?
No, it was wonderful. We had so many fans there. We had friends. I mean, we had people from, various wards that we were in, people that I knew growing up, people that you don't know they're even there, but it's our home. It's Southern California. I'm the oldest of 8, Brian and Dave. And so like we were all there. And then if they don't know me, then they know one of my brothers or sisters. I mean, we permeate sort of South Orange County to, the other side of LA. And, we've been here my whole, pretty much our whole life. We've lived in a couple other areas, but my family has. And so I got so many texts, like my phone's blowing up and text messages, but it was fantastic just knowing. And I've heard you guys talk on this podcast plenty of times, like, yeah, we travel well, right? And I'm doing my air quotes. We travel well, but we are everywhere, right? There's no traveling well. We are in Texas. We are going to be in Kansas, we are going to be in Florida, we are going to be in West Virginia of all places, I mean, that's just, we are everywhere. And you felt that. And Isaac and I both felt that as we kind of, got carted off.
So as a dad that has experience playing,
yeah,
I've made it a conscious effort, along with my son telling me to leave him alone during his games, or trying to encourage him to go out and do some training and do some drills with me. So I purposely said, okay, I'm just dad, and I'm out there and everybody's like, how come you don't coach? And how come you do? And I'm like, nope, I'm just dad. And I thought to myself, one day he's going to ask me, based off of his situation, Dad, help me. How do I get through this? But I don't want to force that. How has your experience, you've been able to help him and uplift him during his time of recovery? How's that been?
Yeah, Brian, I'll tell you it. You wrestle with these two polar opposites, essentially. You want to take the pain, like you really do. You just want to take the pain away. And as he struggles, right, and I'm going to be as honest as I possibly can on this podcast. I mean, he played on one leg last year. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Isaac's one leg and 85% or 80% is, better than a lot of folks, 100%. So, thank goodness. And he was serviceable, but part of you just wants to take it away. But, and again, I don't mean to get spiritual or philosophical here, but that was somebody else's plan to just no pain, no problems, we're all going back. We're going and we're coming back all together the same way we left. Like that, the real growth comes in him determining exactly. And I like the way you put it, Brian, your son will determine whether he loves football, right? He'll determine if he maybe he likes another sport, maybe he doesn't even like sports, right? Whatever it may be, that was the plan. That's the real plan. And as a father, I just try to emulate, a heavenly father to say, hey, there's free agency in all of this. I'm here to help. I'm here to guide. I'll advise. I'm literally standing by. Again, back to not to be too spiritual, but I'm right here. All you gotta do is call.
Yep.
And I'm probably closer than you want sometimes, but that's how it is. All you gotta do is call, and then and you'll figure it out, Brian. And one thing, and Dave, you understand this having kids as well. My dad gave me the best piece of advice my dad ever gave me on being, whether you're coaching or not, or just being a dad or athletics. If you don't make it fun for them and, something they want, it'll just never be enjoyable. And my dad, looking back, I didn't know he had this philosophy, but he told it to me when Isaac was, 7 or 8 and starting off and playing. He's like, hey, if you don't make it fun, he probably saw me coaching him too hard at one point. If you don't make it fun, they won't love it and they won't do it. And so whatever it is, right?
Right.
you're going fishing, then, go out to the best breakfast ever, and, go see the best movie on the way home, and all these little things my dad did to say, hey, I go fishing because that means that, like, I get a good meal and I get a good movie. So
that's awesome.
That's how you have to do it. So
isn't it interesting the way life goes? Because you look hindsight for a moment and you go from that moment down in the end zone where Isaac's wondering if what's going on, and so the wedding was pushed back a little bit and rescheduled, and they got married. He's back playing football. He's heading toward a really healthy season. Just had a son. I mean, the greatest moments of his life weren't before that moment on the football field when you judge everything. Right.
Dave, you say it really well. It's there's so, he now is at the play. Like, you start thinking about it, he played with Zach, and he feels like an elder statesman. And I'm like, look, embrace this role. And Brian, this as a leader on the team, right? Like, hey, learn everything you can in this moment, because part of him, did he have more aspirational goals to maybe be at a different place right now at this time? Yeah, probably did. Is that life where, just like you said, Dave, it'll throw you a curveball, but all the good things are ahead. And there are so many reasons and blessings. Lexi's family lives in Murray. They're fantastic. Yeah. They're right there at a beck's call. They're young parents, right? Yeah. And like, there's a reason that you're where you are, and the lessons you're going to learn from this, and all the good things that are ahead. And we see the good now, and it doesn't take very long. All you do is count your blessings every day. You're like, oh, there's a reason I'm still here. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, there's a reason I'm where I'm supposed to be. I'm here and doing this. And so we've just counted the blessings. There's so many of them. He's where he's supposed to be, exactly where he's supposed to be.
Now, we've asked Isaac this question. We've asked Kalani this question. We've asked Aaron Roderick this question. Now we're going to ask the dad this question. And then we'll move on to some other things, because this interview is really about you, not just your kids. The projection for his ankle and its health for September 2nd, what is it?
Very optimistic and good. So today, I'll give you an example. So this morning, I'm going to get all the guys. I'm going to miss somebody, but I know I'm going to screw this up. So Keaton's staying upstairs. He's staying here with Isaac. They're training. Isaac, Parker Kingston, who else? Chase was here.
Cody down there?
Didn't come today. Okay. They went to train with Austin Colley and Dennis Pitta.
Nice.
So they were on this side. The other side was, tell me our backup quarterback's name, the junior college kid.
Retzlaff?
Yes. Jake. So BYG, this is coming from him, BYG. He said that.
Yeah, I know. He's been saying that.
Yes, I didn't want to say that, but we know what we're talking about. So Retzlaff and Keaton were on this side training with John Beck. And I'm there sort of like getting in the way, whatever I'm doing. So you maybe have a load of BYU alumni, and Isaac is running fantastic. He's doing well. And after, it's sore as it normally would be. I think most people know this, but if you don't, he had a surgery to clean it up in December. Yeah. So we're 120 some days out of surgery.
I didn't know that. I didn't know he had a second one. Wow.
So he had a second one to clean it up, bone fragments, scar tissue, hardware out. So hardware was in, so hardware out. So the point is, everything feels much better, Dave.
Yeah.
We were very optimistic this time last year. We are light years of where we were last year at this time. And so, there's going to have to be some prayers and, some luck involved in all of it too, which we're not afraid to do. But yes, it is very much on track to be way better on September 2nd than it was even the last time you saw him play against, essentially Stanford, where he had a couple touchdowns and, was ready to go.
Who's feeding all those guys? Are you feeding all those guys down there?
Well, the Traeger is doing wonders for us. It's on constant roll. Yeah, no, they're so awesome, and it's just great to have them. We've done it for years. You've seen the pictures, probably. Sure. Dave, you haven't. I'll send you a couple, but it's awesome. We had all the folks from last year. Started with Zach and COVID, and we just San Clemente is a really good place to be. John Beck doesn't hurt that he's, right down the street from us, and so we just say, hey, bring them all. Jaren brought them all last year, and Kibo and the whole, like they'll all come again this summer. And Aaron knows to send them down, and we have a couple of recruits. I don't know if I said it, but they're just friends of our family that may or may not be with BYU that come. So there's a BYU South or BYU San Clemente is alive and well.
And they're your house. You're the hub of BYU San Clemente.
Yep, and they're out by the pool getting sun because I haven't seen it for 3 or 4 months up there.
No, send it up. We're not even seeing it today.
So Preston is back from his church mission. Is he going out and lining up against his brother and his teammates during their
Isaac? No, Preston doesn't back down now. and Brian, you know this well. My dad's 6'5", 6'5.5". My mom's 5'3". Okay, and we are everywhere in between on all of us. Isaac obviously got all my dad's height. Preston did not get that. So we say this a lot in our home. Isaac has to prove he can't play football when he walks in the door because of the eye test. And Brian, you know this well.
Yep.
When you walk through the door, when I walk through the door, when Preston walks through the door, we got to prove we can play football. And Preston plays with that kind of edge and always has. In fact, we were in the office with Kalani, right, after the spring game. And Kalani, here's this quote about Preston. He's like, he's a 15-yard late hit waiting to happen on every play. That's pretty accurate right there.
Nice.
He leads, he probably shouldn't, but he leads with that hat, and he's an old school safety, and he's tough. He played both sides of the ball growing up, but yeah, Preston, anyone will tell you, and Gavin's been a great coach for him, by the way. I mean, obviously Jay Hill runs the room, but Gavin, I know we don't have Blaine on, but please tell Blaine, Dave, that like Coach Gavin, Coach Fowler is heaven sent for Preston. He loves him.
Fantastic.
Really loves him. So.
ESPN's Big 12 Football Power Index ranks the Cougars 13th in the Big 12 ahead of Kansas. But behind everybody else, they list 7 Big 12 schools in the top 30. What do you think about that? Where would you rank the Cougars going into their debut season?
I got a lot of faith in Keaton. He's going to have to pull the trigger. I got a ton of faith in Aaron. I don't know Jay, but I love the energy Coach Hill is bringing.
Yeah.
Part of me wishes he was a newer coordinator. And what I mean by that is, and both of you guys know this, and Brian, you know well, like they'll watch all of Weber State's film from the last 2 years, and they'll understand what he's trying to run.
Yep.
I'm hoping that we're doing it maybe with a little bit, I'm not saying a higher caliber athlete, but maybe execute it with a little more precision. It's still the first year, so mistakes, it's very integral defense. I don't worry about our defensive line, but I know we want to bring pressure. Do we have the personnel today to do that, especially off the edge? I think our first couple corners are ready to guard in the Big 12. Do we have a third? Do we have a fourth corner? I feel like our linebackers would be good. We got the transfer kid from Utah State, so he can't hurt. So, there's questions. And, you got to put up, what do you have to average, Dave? 33? Because didn't the whole league average like 31 or greater points last year?
It was something crazy. It was something crazy. And TCU, it's felt like they were scoring 54 to win by 1.
Yeah.
That's an exaggeration maybe, but
no.
It's all about points in that league.
I think Blaine started saying that in the beginning of the season last year. He said, so we always have a couple of iPads and other TVs in the green room when we're watching the BYU game, and I remember Uncle B just kept saying, "This is what we're gonna have to go up against next year, and we need some offensive power. This is the new way to win games." And with us, when we played, with Bronco, we had pillars, and one of the pillars was keeping a team under 24 points.
That's the magic number, right?
Yeah, that was the magic number. And Uncle B was like, now we need to.
It's like 34. Keep them under 34.
Well, he just said, throw points out the way. And now it's about getting, critical stops, right? If you could just make 1 or 2 stops, we'll be good.
Yeah. No, but you see, look, here's the deal. And Dave, you know this well. Brian's a little before your time. I'm used to this. Like, I was in that 52-52 shootout with San Diego State, and I heard you guys talking to Hans the other day and talking about, President Hinckley had talked to them before whatever game, Lavelle's last game or whatever. I don't know the whole story, but President Hinckley's in the San Diego State locker room before the game and says, hey, if we win this game, there's like $1 million on the line. And back then, $1 million was worth a little more. And I remember thinking, is he really talking about money right now? Like President Hinckley? He's like, we don't care about the money, but it would be nice to have the money. It's just like, we're trying to win a WAC championship, and I'm like, well, and I'm an offensive guy, and I loved our defense. All of our guys were great. Like, Derwin Dewey was like one of my favorites as a captain of the defense. But I'm like, we had to score 52 points to get a tie. And I'm like, what in the world but I'm used to it. Like, let's go. Like, that's what we have to do. Like, I love those days.
After all these years, I had no idea what fueled that comeback after all these years, but now I know that because President Hinckley was there. It makes perfect sense.
Game in the locker room, and we won them. I don't know if it was, I think because we were going to a better bowl that paid, like maybe, did we go to the Holiday Bowl? Was that, wait, hold on, let me get this right. Holiday Bowl against Iowa, right? Isn't that the same year?
Yeah.
Okay. So whatever bowl, if we lost, we were still going to go to a bowl game. I'm going to make one up, Aloha Bowl, Freedom Bowl, whatever, bowl there was at the time. We were still we were guaranteed a bowl. But if we went to, and I didn't know anything about a tie. I don't think President Hinckley knew anything about a tie either. But if we won the game, we were going to the Iowa play, or we were playing the Holiday Bowl, which was $1 million more than whatever the next bowl was. And so that was the talk, and I was like,
"Hey, he knew." President Hinckley knew his stuff.
My God!
What was most painful about that game, as you remember, is San Diego State had never been to a Holiday Bowl, and all they had to do was hang on to that lead, and then they were going to play in one, and they couldn't stop. They couldn't stop anybody, and you guys had a field day. I mean, Jamal Willis, I think, is still running.
Tell me
free.
the head coach's name, Dave, for San Diego State.
Luganville, wasn't it? Was it Luganville?
Yes. Yeah. Al Luganville, who I love, by the way. He coached us in a Japan Bowl later that season, an All-Star game. But Al was awesome. But I remember him pacing, Dave, just up and down and up. I mean, they didn't have the counters back then, Brian, but if you had your iWatch counter, like thousands and thousands of steps, tens of thousands of steps.
They'd be in by hit steps by halftime.
It was awesome.
Byron Rex on the Wise Guys tonight. Played at BYU in 1986, served a church mission to the Dominican Republic, and then returned to the field between 1989 and 1992. Caught 86 passes for 1,223 yards and 7 touchdowns. But let's go back to October 26, 1991. BYU, New Mexico, first quarter. You catch your first touchdown from Heisman Trophy winner Ty Detmer. It's 3 yards out, but it goes for 6 points. What do you remember?
I remember being surprised I caught it. It was kind of entrapment. I caught it all, like I'm doing this on, I don't know, but like awkwardly. And I'm like, that was the most awkward catch I've ever caught in my whole life. And like, I came down with it and I was like, I'm in the end zone. This is fantastic. This is the best thing that's ever happened to me. Look, I grew up watching, like Brian, what tight end is number 95? Like that guy must be so far down on the roster, right? To be number 95.
I would think he's a loser.
Thank you for confirming that. And I wish Blaine was on too, just because Dave, tell me he was on this. What year was it? Give me the year. Steve Young to Gordon Hudson in the Rose Bowl, 82 when we beat them down there?
Yeah. I'm thinking it was 82.
Was it 82? That sounds a little bit. Yeah, that sounds right.
That would have been his
14-year-old Brian who doesn't know much, but knows that I had some people, cousins, right? My mom's Polynesian, so some cousins that played at BYU. But like, we didn't have a TV. Well, I didn't have a TV. My dad didn't like TV, so I didn't have a TV growing up. So I didn't see the Miracle Bowl, although I've seen highlights since. But my dad says, hey, we're taking the kids. It was probably a young men's activity, Dave, and we're going to the BYU football game. And all I see is this massive number 95, Gordon Hudson, going over the middle, and Steve Young just like it seemed like every play went to him. And I was like, Oh my God. I dreamed of it from that moment on. We were related to the Anais, right? So sort of that North Shore cousin thing. So Robert was on that team. And I don't know if you remember Matt, his little brother, Dave, but Matt played for a couple years at BYU, who we loved. And he had stayed with us a summer at our home and kind of that Polynesian way, but we loved Matt and Robert. And I like, it was a dream from that moment, Dave, to the time I caught that first touchdown pass. Like, it was a dream. Can I even play at this school? And look, guys, let's be honest. I'm a 6'1" tight end. Like, really, come on. Like,
that's back when 6'1" was big.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, well,
that's true.
It was not big in 1992 or 91. It might have been in 71 or 60.
Remember, Lavelle played offensive line.
Yeah. And I mean, this is my favorite. So there's Chris Smith, then there's Itula Mealy, there's Chad Lewis, and like I'm kind of stuck in there in between some of there. I'm like, which one of these is not like the others? So Brian, I'm telling you, I walked in the same room and like, hey, okay, I may not be the biggest guy, I may not be the fastest, but I used to love Steve Kafusi. He was one of my favorite people. He was a senior when I was a little peon freshman. And, I'm sitting there on a scout team blocking him all day and he's laughing. I'm sure, I'm 210 pounds or whatever. But, years later when he was recruiting Isaac, he's like, I always remember your toughness. And I'm sure he was just saying that, but I just wanted to be a player. That's all. I didn't know what else to do. I just wanted to be a player.
Yeah, absolutely. I think when you know that you're shorter, you're smaller, you're slower. You don't walk into the situation with that in your mind. You're just more fierce. You know what I mean? You already know that about yourself, and so that chip is on your shoulder. 24/7. I wish I would have had that chip on my shoulder during the alumni game. Because I took my foot off the gas, and I remember
you were horsing around the whole time.
My cousin Joe Sampson was like, this is when I knew it was bad for me, was when he said, B, you can't go halfway to break up a pass breakup. Now he said another word that I can't use on this because trying to keep it PG.
Thank you, Brian.
But he did use an aggressive word, and when he said that to me, my whole world shifted, and I was like, oh, I shouldn't be out here right now, And what saved me, and I was mic'd up, so people that follow me on social media can kind of see, BYU TV and Sports Nation doing this. I was mic'd up, and halftime, Ty Detmer says, man, you still got it, man. You almost picked off my ball, and I was like, what? Me? Oh, I'm not playing for the rest of the game. I'm done. That was the validation that I needed right there, and especially, coming into the program, 2009, that's when I became a BYU fan. So it took me a while to learn. I always watched Steve Young because I grew up in the Bay Area and always went to 49er games. But it took me a little bit to learn some of the legends, right? Like Ty. And so what great confirmation and validation and excuse for me to leave.
Yeah, nice.
But how was playing with the legend, like Ty?
Oh my gosh. Well, first I got to tell my alumni story, right? So I have no business being out there, but the kids are playing and, whatever. So, and Jack calls Demooney and says, you got to play. And I'm like, yeah, whatever. And then Chris Smith was playing. I'm like, okay, I'm younger than him. So whatever. I played like 2 plays, right? I knew my place at least. But the funny part is Ty Detmer, and he has to come back. I told him he has to come back, but you can't, because he can't end like that, right? He can't end on that interception.
Right.
But the Iowa game, Dave, you'll remember this.
Oh, yeah.
His career at BYU ends on an interception. And people won't forget this part, but that 6'1" tight end that was running an over route, who, by the way, was double teamed, Brian, just so you know. So, Ty, if you're listening right now, I'm not saying, it shouldn't have gone to me. I appreciate the faith in me. But when you're double teamed, you're not really expecting the ball. You can see it all on film. It's all right there. I'm running this over route. And if I'm 6'2", maybe 6'3", I come down with that thing, tips off the top of my finger, and it goes into the end zone, literally off the top of my fingers. It goes in the end zone for like just a soft little, give me pick. to end the 13-13 tie.
Here's
we
what
won't
I saw.
talk about the missed kicks and all this stuff, but I told Ty he had to get back the Heisman trophy. He has to give back the Heisman trophy based on those two things. Like you can't just you can't do this on things. But
here's what I saw on that play. I was on the 10-yard line. I was the sideline reporter. So my vantage point was there was where he threw it, but Peter Tuipulotu was wide open down below, I guess to the left of you. If it had just gone one more check down, that there was a touchdown waiting. But even Ty admits, he goes, I just forced it in there and as soon as I let go of it, I thought, oh no. And the game ended at a 13-13
well, he said, oh
tie.
no, because then he figured it was me. He probably thought he was throwing it to Peter. He was like, oh yeah, I got a shot. Oh yeah, oh I let this go. Oh no, that's Byron. Oh no. So I'm sure that was the next thing. Oh no, that's Byron. Like you forgot the second part.
What kind of things would Ty say in your huddle? What was some fun stuff?
Wait, hold on. Brian just made this a PG podcast. Where are we at? No, first of all, Ty is an amazing person.
Right.
And I'm sitting at the desk. You can't see my office, but I'm sitting at the desk that this will make you emotional, Brian. You're going to go through this one day. That my son accepted his offer or got a verbal offer from Ty Detmer at this very desk when Ty called him before seminary to offer him when he was a junior in high school. Talk about small world and blow your mind and fate and all this other stuff. It's crazy. But anyway, so Ty is an amazing person, bar none. But he now that boy, we're competitive, Brian. I get it, but that guy drives a hard bargain right there. You know what I mean? And he's not accepting. He comes off beating Miami. Did we get up to number 3 or 4 in the nation, Dave, when I'm a sophomore, 1990? We had already beaten Miami and we lost to Oregon. And I
thought we were number 4 going to Oregon. Weren't we number 4 going to Oregon?
I think we were number 4. We might have climbed back up. What were we going into Hawaii? I want to say we were probably top 5. You could probably find
I'll double check.
Anyway,
go on.
So going into Hawaii, Ty, the day he wins the Heisman. Okay. So he has this fantastic, my point is he has a fantastic junior year. He comes back and it's Byron Rex, downgrade from Chris Smith, Eric Drage, who I love, but there was Matt Bellini and there was he was loaded everywhere. Andy Boyce had a really fantastic year. But he went from unbelievable supporting cast his junior year to all rooks. We were all first-time starters. We were all juniors and sophomores. And he was so patient with us until what's coming next, until he wasn't. And it didn't take long. We're playing UCLA. I run the wrong route. I side adjust on a short pattern, a 50 route, which you're never supposed to do. I see the blitz. Good for me. I see it, but I run the wrong route. And Eric Dredge and I basically almost run into each other. And Eric drops the ball, and we're driving to beat UCLA. Now, granted, we just lost to Florida State.
Mm-hmm. Penn State.
It was top 10 for sure that year. UCLA, good program. We're on our way to Penn State to getting blasted. We're 0-3, and Ty is just returning Heisman Trophy winner, Ty Detmer, just trying to shepherd all of us. We finally put it together and go on a really good run the middle of that season. We were close to the top 25. I think we lost. We tied Iowa, which Iowa was a top 15 team for sure. I think we were top 25. We ended up in a tie. And so that part I love about Ty. Super, super dedicated, unbelievably smart. Forget the physical stuff. We all know that. Just understood everything, but so patient with a lot of us guys that were not at his standard that he had been used to dealing with those 2 years leading up to there. And he stayed to, sort of deal with us yahoos, playing the different positions. So.
He told me he was a better quarterback the year after the Heisman. He was a better quarterback. Didn't have a better season, but he thought his performance with what he had to work with.
There you go. Now we're talking, Brian.
He was a better quarterback that year because of just what you explained, that a lot of the
we
guns
were like
were gone.
all anchors hanging, ball and chains hanging around his legs.
So look, here's what I want to know. When you drop a pass, now you're going back to the huddle. Now tell us, that whole thing was a setup for, tell us about the real Ty in the huddle after you've dropped one of his passes.
Well, so here's the deal. People were like, oh, you had such great hands. You had such great hands. No, I didn't. The ball, you just turn around and the thing would just kind of feathery float into your hands. It was never a question. He knew where he was going every time. And by the way, Brian, I saw this on the first couple throws at the alumni game. It's like the dude never left. He throws a sail route in this zone that you guys are running. I'm like, I've seen that thousands of times in my life. It never left, that guy. And he's just back there oh, I know what they're running, cover 2, cover 3, whatever, cover 1, and I'm just picking this thing apart. And he started picking on the linebackers because that guy I was like, gosh, this guy is something special. But when you would come back, there was this kind of he was so good about, especially in the beginning of the year. Now, he got more demanding as time went on. But at the beginning of the year, he was especially he wasn't apologizing to, don't get me wrong, but he would say if it was his bad, he would say my bad. But other times he would give this kind of this weird, I don't know if you can see it on TV, but he give this clap come on. And you knew as soon as that came, you just didn't want to let the guy down. Now, the UCLA thing was a different story. That was a mental mistake. And I mean, you can see him. I didn't have to get back to the huddle because I had no business. It was 4th down. Yeah. I wasn't going back to the huddle. I knew better, Dave. I was going nowhere near that huddle. I was running the sideline. Well, guess what? He wasn't letting me get away with that. He was hunting me down, and he is in my face. We don't side adjust on that, da-da-da. And I was like, oh, man. And I literally just dropped. It was a 2-minute drive. We probably had 4 minutes left, and, defense wasn't. Well, anyway, I just did it wrong. But I was so disappointed in myself at that time. And it wasn't Ty, but I just didn't want to let him, nor the team or Norm. Coach Chow was one of my favorites. I just didn't want to let anyone down, and I felt like I did. And that's one that, you remember the good times, but you also remember the bad times. But yeah, Ty wasn't afraid to tell you like it was and give a few choice words out there. Never afraid to do that.
I almost wonder what makes successful teams is having a quarterback like that. Because I've been on teams where the quarterback he's the leader, I think, naturally, by default, which I don't like a lot of times, but by default, the quarterback is just made the leader, right, and the captain.
Yeah.
But then they don't bring that fierce mentality and mindset with them. And what I mean by that is where you kind of get scared yourself. I no longer want to work hard for myself and my own selfish reasons. It's to not let you down. And I felt like that with Max Hall, and I wasn't even on offense,
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, this dude brings it every single day, every practice period. This dude is jawing and talking smack to us, talking smack to his guys, and I almost feel like you need a quarterback like that. Tom Brady I think is a good example, right, where he may not be the most animated, or as fierce as a Max, but when he has to be, he is, right?
Oh yeah.
And so I wanted to ask you that question: is have you? Do you think there's something to that where the quarterback has to be that type of personality?
100%, 100%. And we've been lucky enough to be around some good quarterbacks. John trains at Golden West, which is about 30 minutes from us. My boys have caught. Preston was a receiver in high school. Isaac obviously was a tight end. We've caught be careful now. We caught for all the greats, you name it. Isaac's been with these guys and ran routes, and you see it in what they're doing work. Like Matt Stafford, I saw it in him. I saw it in Matt Ryan when I was with Isaac. I saw it with Dak Prescott. I see it a lot with. I even saw it now. Jameis Winston is he's a barrel of laughs, joking, but when it's business time, he gets down.
Yeah.
He gets down. Yep. And, he expects Isaac and Preston, these high school kids that are going to catch for him, hey, we're going. And I watched James say, hey, let me get Isaac up there. Let me get Isaac up. He wanted to get his work in with the tight ends, And so these guys, it's just naturally who they are. The great ones, it's who they are. you know, and like Max is fantastic. Max came and visited Dennis. You guys know Dennis moved to town. So Dennis and I play hoops and we're together. I love Dennis. Well, Max came to visit and we just went to the old, you know, to the State Center and we're playing hoops. And I'm like, Max is full tilt now. And I'm like, holy cow. You know, he's got these big broad shoulders now. He's like, looks like a bodybuilder out there, but he was downhill full speed. And he's like, oh yeah, I haven't played basketball for years. I'm like, wait, what? It wasn't, you know, but he's athletic. Obviously that's the easiest part. By the way, I beat him a bunch of times.
I'm sure you did.
So
yeah, I'm sure you did.
So anyway, but it's just who he is. Like it's inside, like it burns hot all the time. And I just think you can't have enough of those guys, right? And especially at the quarterback position. And you don't have to be animated. Like I've watched Tom Brady undress guys now, but you know, I think he tried to hide it when he was younger, but it was always there. So yeah, it's huge. It's huge.
We'll be watching Keaton Slovis as he develops that chemistry and that feeling out there.
Well, this guy's a next level communicator now. Yeah. He's a next level like guy who he leads everybody who's come through this house, including my wife, my sisters. Like, you know, we had friends over last night. We're watching a Laker game, and we had a semi house full. And I mean, he's holding court now. That he's special from a relationship standpoint.
Great.
Now, how he chooses to go about that during the season, he'll communicate what he wants and what he needs. Like I see that in him. He's special that way. And not that Jaren wasn't great, because Jaren's a quieter leader. Mm-hmm. You know, Zach was very much about the details, but Keaton is just this little next level from a communication standpoint that I see, like when he's in our home. Yeah, you know, but don't let the politeness and don't let the, you know, shucks thing fool you, because he's like, he knows where he fits. He's very confident in what he wants to do and where he wants to go. Very confident. Yeah.
Let's wrap up this fascinating conversation with Byron Rex with 5 questions. You ready? These are 5 questions.
I've been waiting all day for it.
Rapid fire, and you know the show, so you know the questions. So your favorite sports movie?
See, I cheated. I don't know all the questions, but I knew this one. So I don't know all the questions, but so Brian, I'm sorry. Dave, I'll be super impressed if you know this one.
All right.
Now, it's a real close. I love Rocky 1, which I saw when I was 10 years old, which my dad took me to our whole family to on family home evening. It was my first rated R movie. We weren't allowed to see rated R movies. My dad said, hey,
Rocky was rated
close
R?
your ears. Rocky 1.
Rocky 1.
He's like, close your ears. There's a couple words. I'm pretty sure it was rated R. Maybe I'm wrong, but it was. I know my dad made a big stink out of like, hey, I shouldn't be taking you to this, but we're doing it. And by the way, the next morning I woke up and I had 2 raw eggs. I think I got myself sick.
Nice.
And I ran like, it felt like 10 miles, but it was probably more like a 1/10 of a mile. But I was like shadow boxing the next day.
Fantastic.
But here's my favorite sports movie, Dave. Here we go. The Fish That Saved Pittsburgh.
The Fish that I've heard of that. The Fish That Saved Pittsburgh. I've heard of the movie, but I don't know what it's about. It's got to be a baseball movie, doesn't it?
It's a basketball movie.
The Fish That Saved.
You can look it up. The Fish That Saved Pittsburgh.
I'm writing it down right now.
And I think Dr. J. I think it was Dr. J. Dr. J. I think is the star NBA guy.
It wasn't Bugs Bunny or anything like that. It was Dr. J.
It wasn't animated. It was just funny, and they take this array of like, you know, this person from over here. I think there's a girl in the movie. She's called Swish, and there's this guy and that guy, and they bring it together. And whoever the coach is in the movie, like, wins whatever championship. So the Fish That Saved Pittsburgh. You will not get that again, Brian, on this show.
I believe you're right.
That sounds like a Dr.
I believe
Seuss,
you're right.
like a Dr. Seuss title.
Favorite singer?
I said, look it up. You'll love it, Brian. I promise you. If you like, look,
our guys have put up the.
There it is.
They put up the movie. Julie Serving, Jonathan Winters, Meadowlark Lemon from the Globetrotters, Flip Wilson.
You know what? Now that I have a visual, I'm intrigued.
Hey, I had you at Dr. J, didn't I? I had you at Dr. J, Brian.
Yep.
All right, best
Meadowlark Lemon. Who knew?
Favorite band or singer?
Oh gosh. Okay, so I am way into I Am Tongi right now, right? From American Idol. Like, I love him. Now, I'm a slow jams, old school R&B type of guy, so Luther Vandross comes to like mine.
Okay.
I love Luther.
Didn't Luther sing at One Shining Moment initially? Wasn't that his song?
I think
Luther
he did.
I think
yes.
so. I think so.
Yeah, but I love me some Luther. I love old R&B. The kids make fun of. We go in the garage. We lift weights to like slow jams. So anyway,
all right, we're going with Luther on that. That's a good one. Favorite breakfast cereal?
Oh man,
these are tough.
I like shredded Wheaties, but that's like new school. Old school has got to be Captain Crunch.
Captain Crunch.
And I heard you talk to Beck about like getting the top of your mouth raw.
Yeah.
You remember that part?
Oh,
like,
yeah.
That's when you know you love Captain Crunch.
It's happened to all of us. I had Captain Crunch this morning. I'm not ashamed to admit it.
No, I love
Reese's.
Captain
You got to try Reese's Puffs. You like Reese's? Candy Reese's?
No, too like the milk. Like I like my chocolate milk like straight and thick, and it turns it to like peanut buttery chocolate. Yeah.
Okay.
All right, two more. Favorite BYU moment. And we got Brandon Doman coming up next. Favorite BYU moment.
I got to compete with Brandon now.
Yeah.
Well, I liked watching Isaac score 12 touchdowns in that COVID year. I'll go with that.
Yeah, that was like 12 moments all put into one moment, but that's what you're going
literally
with. 12
was
touchdowns.
Mike Wilson and I just sitting in empty stadiums, just taking all the leg room we possibly could. And just
wasn't that the most out of body experience? We're broadcasting games in empty stadiums. It's hard to believe that happened. But
we did that, right? We went to Houston. That was the first place. Remember we went down to Houston?
Yeah. And
we're down there and we're like, this is awesome. They're letting people in the stadium. And we just sat there and we were so mad we couldn't go to Boise. I was so mad I couldn't go to Boise. And Isaac had a phenomenal game. But yeah, I look back, it seems like a different age at 12, I swear.
All right, your last one, number 5. Favorite game on BYU's 2023 schedule? Favorite game on the schedule coming up this fall?
I'm intrigued by Arkansas. I'm intrigued by Oklahoma, and I'm intrigued by Texas. I'll go at home against Oklahoma.
At home, November 18th against the Sooners. It might be cold. It'd be perfect if it's a little chilly.
Oh my gosh, yeah, that crisp air.
Hope
and please play at 8 p.m.
Yes.
We are so good at 8 p.m.
That might be the first time Cougar fans have cheered for an 8 p.m. November game.
Oh my gosh, I want them all at 8 p.m.
to freeze out the Sooners.
I want Arizona State. I want Utah again. I want Baylor. I want to just run it back.
I hope it snows. I thought I'd never say this, but I hope it snows that game. I hope you play at 8. I hope it snows.
Hey, you guys are sitting in the cushy box. Like, stop with the snow thing. No, we got to stop with that. Like, you're in a cushy box with, I know those nice BYU TV, real thick coats. Like, I'm sitting here coming from California with a sweatshirt. I know you're warm, Brian. I see you dressed up over there. You
Listen,
look good.
The BYU store.
I'll say cold, no snow.
Yeah. I appreciate it. It's the makeup. But you know what? We do have real nice warm tech gear from Nike that BYU TV takes care of, and we have heaters too. So
here's what you have, Brian. You have the stuff they don't sell in California. That's what you got. And so I got to come to the game, and Brian's like, "Yeah, it's gonna be great." No,
just come up to the.
I know the heater under the desk.
Yep.
I played the game before.
Yep.
I see how you guys work.
Yep. And I got a couple of blankets. I got a couple of blankets that lay on me as well over my lap. I got a lot actually.
And you're sitting on a nice one, so you look taller. I know the trick.
Oh yeah.
I see.
I have a cushion that's like this big because I'm so much shorter than everybody else.
There's some truth to what he's saying.
It's keeping you warm. I know that.
Is.
Hey, we enjoy having you on the show. It's been a pleasure, and we want to have you on again. And we know so. Slovis and your son are just on the other side of the door watching a basketball game.
I can go get them if you want. They come in here and just jump on the camera.
You're babysitting them tonight?
I'm literally babysitting them. My wife went to go get baby diapers because Luca and Lexi are coming tomorrow. So it's boys NBA night after we had a whole crew over here watching NBA last night. So,
that's awesome.
Nice.
And hoops tomorrow night with the boys.
This interview is about you. You tell those guys to stay in the other room. This is your time on our show.
They're probably passed out. They got Austin and Dennis put them through. I've never read so many rounds. You're complaining already? Jeez Louise. So, those two, they put them through the ringer today, which I love.
Good, those two are so fun. You know, and Austin injured himself trying to get ready for the alumni game. But he still went out there.
He did it in our backyard. He did it over at Vista Hermosa Park. He was throwing. He was down visiting. He's throwing. I was out of town, so I wasn't there that night. But normally I'd been there. And I get a text from Dennis that goes, Austin's out. I'm like, out of what? He goes, oh, he injured his calf. I'm like, doing what? Like, what? We played basketball like last night. He's like, yeah, he was running a route full speed. I think he's out. I'm like, oh my gosh. And then, yeah, don't tell me all this. Well, I can tell you all the stuff he went through to get ready for the alumni game. So, yeah, no, I should have been there. I was there the night before. So yeah.
It was fun. It was a fun game. We look forward to seeing you back on the field again next spring.
No, I'm done. I retired. Brian,
maybe you retired.
Brian, don't go as long as Brian, I'm 55. Don't go as long as I did. Do not do it. I'm telling you right now.
Listen, if Ty's back in the game, and we anticipate he will be back, we expect you to be back.
No, you know what? We had breakfast the next morning with Max. This is a definition of Max. I know I'm going way over, but
you're good.
Max is setting the goal to come back for the alumni. Like, he's like, I'm going to be back. That's my goal.
Wow.
He's like, I want to ride my mountain bike and be back for the alumni game next year.
That's my quarterback right there.
I know, but that's your guy.
That's my quarterback. If Max is going to play, I'm playing. Let's put it like that.
There you go. And if Ty's playing, I'm not playing. How about that?
If Ty's playing, you are playing. Then we're going to hold you to it.
No, I do better. There was too many good guys in street clothes that were way better than me, and I was wearing the uniform. So
hey, we'll get you back on before the season starts. But we sure appreciate your time and have some fun watching the game tonight. Yep. And we'll send you the podcast too tomorrow. But the great Byron Rex. And don't throw yourself behind Chris Smith. You had some big touchdowns and you wore the jersey proud, and you had 2 games in Ty Detmer's Heisman Trophy year. You needed to win those games for him to win that trophy.
Yeah, we did. No, it's I put in my fair share, but yeah, Chris was a good player now. I'm telling you, there's a lot of twos. That tight end room, Dave, you know it. That's quite the tight end room. So no, I love them all. I'm proud to be a part of the tradition, and I'm so proud that Isaac is a part of the tradition too. It's like, what a blessing. Huge.
Thanks for being on the show, Byron. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, guys. I'll talk to you soon.
You got it.
See you, Brian.
Have a good one.
The great Byron Rex with us, father of Isaac and Preston. We'll talk about Xander later. He'll have his day. That's the youngest coming up. We're waiting to connect with Brandon Doman. We'll have him here momentarily. We got a note from one of our viewers called a Ranting Red Raider. Texas Tech fan. Okay. And he sent a big long sheet of his rant on the Red Raiders and the status and all that stuff. And I wanted to make note, there was a paragraph in here that says, I have Texas Tech at BYU as a toss-up. These are his words. It'll be loud, chilly. I don't think it'll be chilly because it's early October, but he doesn't know. And our players will need to be hydrated. The atmosphere will be loud, but not anything Tech hasn't seen. Then he says Tech wins 34-20. Now, how can you be a toss-up and then one sentence later you're saying you're going to win by 2 touchdowns?
Yeah, I think he's a little bit confused. They're playing at Provo in Provo.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, everybody says the same thing that he says. We've been in hostile environments, et cetera, and then they come here and it's completely different.
Thanks for watching Ranting Red Raider. Our next guest tonight went 14-2 as BYU starting quarterback, selected in the 5th round of the 2002 NFL Draft by the 49ers. With the NFL Draft later this week, we're happy to welcome Brandon Doman back to the Wise Guys tonight. Brandon, thank you for being with us.
Yeah, I'm so glad to be with you.
Byron Rex was just our guest, and he was bummed to find out that you were following him because then he had to compete with you. But we're glad to have you.
I didn't know I was going to be fortunate to have Brian Logan on the show here tonight.
Coach, are you at church right now? I haven't seen you.
He's got a lot of things going on.
The last time I seen you with a tie on and the shirt was boarding the plane, going to play somebody. So,
Game day.
I say this to a lot of people. I don't know if I ever told you this personally, but you hands down my favorite coach.
Man.
Hands down. I don't believe I said that to you personally, but you have always been my favorite coach. And the reason why is because of how animated you were and when anybody made a play. And what stood out to me was that I would make a play, let's say it was 3rd down, big 3rd down. We get off the field, and he's the first person to come and chest bump me.
No kidding.
He's an offensive coach, and he would do that with anybody, right? And what that showed me was he really loves the game and how passionate he was. And I remember a couple of times you'd come over to me and be like, "Yo, pick these guys up, make a play, get excited, again, hearing that from you, I'd be like, oh, okay, this is somebody who's passionate. He's telling me I got to bring the passion.
Brandon, is any of that true? Is any of that recounting true?
I mean, you know, I want to believe that Brian's telling the truth for sure. So, Brian, you're my favorite player, without question. So there you go, right back at you, brother.
You didn't have to say that because I said it to you.
It's like a love fest.
Listen, Brian. Brian was so fun to be around because he just had this infectious smile, which you can see when he smiles, and then he just was so fun to be around and an absolute competitor. And we had some great times. Those were really, really, really fun times. And I appreciate you saying that. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean it genuinely.
Brandon, you were the fifth round pick of the Niners in 2002. What was your NFL draft experience like, and did you have any idea where you were going to go?
I knew that I was going to be somewhere between the 8th and 10th quarterback taken in the draft. And in those days, you know, we just had to turn ESPN on, and we had first round was the first day, and then the rest of the rounds were the second day. And I was sitting there in my house watching it on ESPN, and it went the Green Bay Packers and then the San Francisco 49ers in the draft. And the 49ers already had 4 quarterbacks on their roster. And I had a great workout with them, and I had a great rapport with their staff, but there was no indication. I had no belief that they were going to take a quarterback, but the Green Bay Packers I knew were going to take a guy. And I'd had a great workout with them as well, and I was hopeful. Brett Favre was their quarterback at the time, and I thought, man, that would be so awesome to go play for the Packers and get to learn from him. And the pick came up as the 162nd pick, and I was just anxiously watching the TV, hoping like mad I was going to get a phone call, and it was in the 5th round. And they picked a guy named J.T. O'Sullivan, did not take me in the draft. And I was so mad. I got up. I had to go cool off. I went into the kitchen, and I had family there. And then all of a sudden, my whole family just erupts, cheering and screaming. And I'm like, nice joke. Because, I wouldn't put that past my family. I was like, okay, that's funny. And sure enough, my cell phone rings, and it was Steve Mariucci with the 49ers, and they had selected me the next pick, 163rd pick. And
so you're in the kitchen while all this is going down?
You missed it?
I didn't even see it. Then I go running back in there, and I'm talking to Coach, and I see my name coming across the TV. And anyways, and, the very next thing you do, you're like, how much did I just make? You're like, oh. So then you start looking that up. I wonder what's my signing bonus, and you just aren't thinking very.
What's that phone call like? What's that phone call? The phone rings in your future. You're going to answer it, and it's your future. What's that like?
It was quick. It was. Hey, Brandon, this is Steve Mariucci, and we want to let you know we're going to take you in this pick. And I was hyperventilating. I was so excited. I can't really remember anything that he said other than, we believe in you. We think you're a great fit. Jeff Garcia was their quarterback. Mm-hmm. He was a 2-time Pro Bowler at that point. He was smaller than I was. And I just thought, man, if there wasn't a better fit for me than there, I just was so grateful. And my next phone call and you talked to all the coaches. So I talked to the quarterback coach and the offensive coordinator, and then the general manager, and it was really a cool thing. And then I put the phone down, and my next call was Steve Young. And he called me. He's like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe you're coming out here." And he was really cool. And so he started talking to me about West Coast offense. I'm like, "Steve, you're just speaking a foreign language to me right now. So can I get back to my family?"
Now, this is a guy you idolized, Steve Young. He was Mr. BYU, and he ran the football. You ran the football. And to have him call you up, and now you're talking as professionals, what kind of rush is that?
Like I said, nothing seemed real. I felt like I was in a dream the whole time. And everything about my first year in the NFL, from the draft to the phone calls to a week later, I was, down there in San Francisco, walking into 4 Super Bowl trophies, and in their old facility, and those guys would come around. You'd see Joe Montana and Jerry Rice and Steve Young would come around, and you'd see all these old time 49ers that you'd idolized your whole life. And if there was ever a team that I wanted to play for, that was my favorite team, it was them. So it just didn't seem real. The whole thing was pretty unbelievable.
I think you experienced that at every level, because you, as a player, you're trying to get to the next level, right? And so you kind of put it on a pedestal. You kind of idolize the people that are at that level, and then you get there and you kind of realize that you belong, right? That there's like this moment where everything stops being surreal. For me, it was my second pass interference call against Oklahoma. And I remember driving on the ball, and I got there so fast, faster than I thought I would get there. And I got there early, and I said, "Oh my gosh, I could have made a play on this."
Yeah, we all thought that. By the way, you weren't alone.
Oh yeah, I'm here. I made it. I could do this. That was a moment for me where things stopped being surreal. What was there a moment that you had that you remember in the NFL where you said, "You know what, I belong. I'm an NFL quarterback"?
Yeah, when I got out there, it started in minicamp right away when we started going to battle and running one-on-ones and throwing routes but where it was for me, it was interesting, totally unrelated from a game day experience. But I think those experiences were helpful. But we were finishing our first minicamp. I'd been there for 3 days. And they said, "Okay, everybody take your pads off." Excuse me. And we're going to do our conditioning test. And I was like, "Conditioning test? What the heck is this?" And they said, "We're going to do the beep test." Do you remember the beep test, Brian, at BYU?
Nope.
I don't know if you ever did
I didn't have to do it.
So I said, "We're going to do the beep test." And these guys start taking their cleats off, cutting their tape off their ankles, throwing tennis shoes on. I'm like, "What the heck's going on?" I had my cleats and my taped ankles on. And I just and we started doing this conditioning test, and when it was all said and done, the last two people standing was Jeff Garcia and me, and I just, for me, it was just a massive boost, because I just knew that we can do anything we set our minds to, and nobody here I'm competing against has any more physical tools except as a quarterback, and I was grateful for it. But it's interesting in the NFL. It just things, or in college or anything for that matter, you just you need to have the right opportunities, the right moments, and you have to capitalize. And I had those in college, and in the NFL, it just didn't materialize, and your life goes in a different direction. And it's a short-lived window.
Yeah.
I was 3 years, and it was over. So you have to capitalize when you get the chance.
Former BYU and San Francisco 49ers quarterback Brandon Doman on the Wise Guys, live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and ysguys.com. What do you foresee ahead this weekend for Jaren Hall?
I think he's going to have a great weekend. He's not in the first handful of picks, so it's going to be really interesting to see when he goes. There's a frenzy on the first handful of picks, and they go quick. And then once those go quick, then the teams start trying to posture themselves and get a quarterback as late as they can. So I think Jaren is my opinion, he's a first 3-round guy. But the most important thing for him isn't when he goes in the draft. It's going to be who picks him and what opportunity is there. Who's the starting quarterback? Who does he get to learn from? What staff is in that locker room? And there's so many variables to be successful. So be really interesting to see what opportunities he gets.
Do you think, is there a team out there you think he would fit, or is it just so convoluted now that unless it's someone that doesn't have a Hall of Famer behind the center, it seems like every job is open?
There's so many good coaches right now, so many offenses. The game has changed, and it fits him perfectly. I wish I was coming out right now, because of just the changes that have happened. It fit my personality and my playing style more today than it did back then. And Jaren, he fits beautifully into what the teams are doing. He, if you could wave a magic wand, you would want to go be a backup quarterback to one of the top 5 quarterbacks if you could do that. And whoever gets to be a Patrick Mahomes backup, and whoever gets to play with Andy Reid, it has the pick of the litter. It's just the greatest opportunity. I thought there might have been a chance that Kansas City would have made a couple trades to get Zach Wilson to come in because it was a good fit.
Yeah,
I think Jaren's a good fit in that environment, but I think there's 5 or 6 teams like that would be good for him.
If you could give Jaren some advice based off of your experience, what would you tell him right now?
Be ferocious. Have confidence, just like you said in that Oklahoma game. Don't question how good you are, and don't question your abilities. Go in there with a ferocious, tenacious mentality. Don't take no for an answer. Compete like crazy and have an expectation to be the very best, because they don't care. Everyone's there to get a paycheck, and you have to have a ferocious mindset, or they'll eat you alive and get rid of you quickly. And if he doesn't go in there with that mindset, it doesn't matter how good he is. And if I could go back and do it again, I competed like crazy, but I don't know that I was as ferocious as I should have been or could have been in those competitive situations. And I don't think I had the confidence that I probably could have had or should have had. And he's played two good, solid years, and even more than that. So he should not look over his shoulder and just go compete like crazy.
Brandon Doman on the Wise Guys tonight. He helped Lavelle Edwards win his final home game against New Mexico, his final road game against Utah, and he won Gary Croton's first 12 games in 2001. In what ways can Zach Wilson benefit from Aaron Rodgers going to the Jets?
Everybody has their own journey that they go on as a quarterback, and this will dictate his career for sure. Everybody was ready to run Steve Young out of there in Tampa Bay. He just wasn't. Everyone thought that he was a product of the system at BYU, and just was never going to be an NFL guy. And 49ers pick him up, and he gets to sit behind the Joe Montana. And who right now has a better pedigree or a better history of success in the NFL right now than Aaron Rodgers? So this has the potential of being the greatest thing that happened to Zach Wilson, to watch this guy do what he does, learn as much as he can from him. He needs to regain, the locker room the best he can, and that's going to come from just his work ethic and his humility and his ability to do what he needs to do. But if he'll learn what he needs to learn from Aaron in a short window, let's call it 2-3 years, probably maximum, and he's not 10 times better like Steve was, then he may not last very long in this league. But I suspect he's going to learn what he needs to and have another shot at it. And when he does, I think he's going to be really good.
Do you think this move was strategic as far as, hey, we kind of stuck from the Jets' perspective, we're kind of stuck with Zach? Obviously, he may not be the most marketable, person right now from what happened.
Yep.
And so this is a way where, hey, we can bring somebody in, we can win right now with our roster, and then let's just deal with Zach when the time comes. Or do you think this was the other side of let's also bring somebody in that can win right now, but also maybe nurture and help him grow?
I think it's the latter. Yeah, they can't win with Zach right now. They know what they've got in him. And by bringing Aaron in and giving themselves a chance to win immediately, they have kind of a double win here, where they can get a really talented young quarterback prepared to play when Aaron's done. And I'm sure that that's the thought process here.
A couple more minutes. Speaking of quarterbacks, tonight you're ready to reveal to the world your top 5 quarterbacks in NFL history. 5 to 1. Starting with number 5, going to number 1. And let's
That's
start
right.
with number 5. Who do you got?
Well, I thought about this, and I did not think about it before I came in. You've got me on the spot. Maybe I'll do my best to give you my top 5. But I do think that when I looked at it, the guys that have won the most or have had the most success or have the most trophies,
Okay.
I would pick. So Joe Montana.
Is that number
Tom
1? Is Joe Montana your number 1, or you?
I would pick Joe Montana number 1 because he's just my favorite guy.
Okay.
And I've got Tom Brady up there. I've got Brett Favre up there. And I've got Steve Young up there. And I've got Patrick Mahomes. Those are my 5 top players. So
Patrick Mahomes.
Patrick Mahomes, Steve Young, Joe Montana, Tom Brady, and who did I say? I think I said 5 there.
Yeah, Mahomes, Young, Favre, Brady, and Montana. As a Cowboy fan, there was no spot for Roger Staubach in there? Nothing.
No Roger Staubach. I had a hard time putting Tom Brady in there because he's slow.
Really? Well, who would you bounce him out for? Who was like number 6?
I don't know. I love John Elway. Loved him. Love the way he played.
A lot of people would just put Brady number 1 because of the trophies,
because of the rings, yeah.
and then maybe argue Montana. But you're going Montana.
I think Tom Brady arguably is the GOAT, but if I were choosing today, I would still choose Joe Montana over him.
So people bring up this argument a lot when it comes to LeBron and Jordan. They'll try to say, well, it's 2 different eras, right? And 2 different styles of play. The game was just different. Do you take that in consideration when you are, listing the top 5?
Without question, that's what I want to know. Would that guy, how successful that guy be in the modern era? Because the athletes now are so unbelievable.
Yeah.
And I think Joe Montana would be even better. I think he would have been better. And Tom Brady, I think, would have been great in both eras as well. And then the other guys, I think, are just unbelievable in the way they played the game. From Brett Favre and Patrick Mahomes, they just have some unbelievable skills and abilities. And then Steve, from a willed, grit, determination to be great. He just made himself great by his focus and the way that he went about it. And then he had the ability.
Yeah.
Are you pretty sure none of those guys could run the triple option like you, though?
No way. Kidding me?
They all have their spots, but you had to do all that. It was like a magician.
Yeah. There's no way. Yeah. There's probably 4 of the 5 that could have, but I don't know that Tom Brady could. But the other guys probably have been awesome at it.
Let's finish with this. And were you surprised a little bit? You didn't play a lot in the alumni game, which surprised me. And John Beck came up and hogged most of the game time. But I don't think you threw an incompletion. I thought you were zinging it. I talked to you for just a minute after the game while you were out signing autographs and giving hugs and stuff. But your arm was you still got it.
Man, I'm so nervous going into that thinking, can I throw a spiral? My second throw in warm-ups, I kid you not, my second throw in warm-ups went 5 feet over the receiver's head. He was 10 yards away from me. So I was like, this is not going to be pretty. So the fact that I even able to complete passes was a massive win for me.
Hey, you marched him right down and scored a touchdown. Led BLO to a second consecutive Navy championship. So
feels good to be 2-0.
Hey, thanks for your time tonight.
Hey, thank you guys. Great job. Have a great night.
Appreciate your insight as draft weekend is just a couple of days away for another BYU quarterback. And it was great to go down memory lane, even if you were in the kitchen. I did not know that you were in the kitchen that night.
Yeah.
Thanks, Brandon. We'll talk to you soon.
All right, Coach. Love you.
See you later, guys. Take care. Love you too, brother.
The great Brandon Doman. How about that? He's in the kitchen. Tick because the Packers passed him. Fortunately, the rest of the family was still watching TV, and they go, hey, even if you're going to the 49ers, that's so much better.
He missed a moment. That's crazy.
That was good.
It's funny how everything works out. You know, if he would have just been humble for one more second,
he could have just been sitting there and all that stuff. That's so cool. Next week, Johnny Harleen's going to join the show. He's still open after all these years. And then we get into May. Michael Johansson, the executive director of the BYU Alumni Association, will be with us as the Cougars march into the Big 12. That's a big deal for alumni everywhere. Amber and Amari Whiting are going to join us next month. Gennaro Guilford, Fessy Sataki. We look forward to a super May following Johnny Harleen next week here on the Wise Guys. Let's get into a couple of campus notes while we got some time here. There's a lot going on, and for men's basketball, there were some good things going on since we've been together last. The Cougars got a big high school commit, 4-star Isaac Davis, going to come play at BYU. 6'6" power forward out of Ammon, Idaho. Averaged 17.6 points, 9 rebounds during his junior season at Hillcrest High School. He's going to join 4-star signee Colin Chandler on the floor at BYU for the Cougars' second season in the Big 12 in 2024. Foose will be a senior. Everyone else currently on the team will be a little bit older. And so Mark Pope building the recruiting class. He's shopping the portal, but you got to get some high school kids. Yeah. You know, those are your foundation pieces. And Isaac Davis, a big story this last week.
You know, it's hard. I mean, well, obviously I'm excited, right? Because this is a big time kid. But as you were breaking down the rest of the team, what they're going to look like, you know, guys are going to be a little bit older, have more experience. The first thing that popped in my mind was, are these guys even going to be on the roster? You know,
yeah, they could be somewhere else. We anticipate that they will be because they still are.
Yeah,
but in today's world, who knows?
And so I just think about the challenges that basketball coaches have. I mean, I think football, it's safe to say it's easier, right? With dealing with the transfer portal. Basketball, I mean, guys are leaving left and right, and so you know how can you build a roster and sustain a roster where you look at on both sides, the men and women's championship teams or Final Four teams. The biggest stat that stood out to me with all of them was of how long they've been together.
Yeah, it's a dying thing.
Right.
Relationships are the key, right?
Yeah.
Relationships can hold them together for the most part. Mm-hmm. And that's the challenge of being a head coach now. You get paid a lot of money to try to figure that out. And BYU's trying to figure it out before they head into the toughest league in college basketball. The women's team trying to figure it out. Lauren Gustin went to the transfer portal on Sunday just before BYU's first year in the Big 12. She led the nation in rebounding, was on pace to become BYU's all-time leading rebounder. We texted back and forth. She said that she was going to check her options out.
Oh, okay.
She's a grad student, and I believe if you got your degree, check it out.
Oh, yeah.
Take a look around,
Absolutely.
See what's best. But she said it didn't mean she was leaving for good. It meant she was going to look around. Now, the pessimist will always say, well, if they're looking, they're gone. Yeah. But sometimes they look around and they realize, I have it really good here. Mm-hmm. And so that's up until she signs with somebody else, that's a possibility. And then, and Amber Whiting's going to be with us here in a couple of weeks as she's put together already one of the best recruiting classes in program history, right. Regardless of what Gustin does.
Yeah.
But
dude, this one broke my heart.
Man, when you're the best rebounder in the country, you got to have them.
I went to the last 3 games, and shame on me. This was the first time I attended a women's basketball game since I've been here. I've been to every other sport and every other match, game, volleyball, all that. This is the first one.
Took a while, but you got it done.
I met, I showed up and her storyline alone, it brought the fan out of me. Right. And to see how hard she worked and hear her story behind the scenes, interviews and whatnot, I was like, man, I'm a fan of her. I'm a fan of the team. And so, when your fan favorite leaves, it does something to you, you know? And
it does. It does it to every program. And I wrote a column at Deseret.com about it. And my point was that, hey, you got a passport, you're a graduate, you have a passport to travel the portal.
Yeah.
But you get a chance to look around and you look at all the guys BYU football has added.
Yep.
Our guys who said, you know what, Keaton Slovis, hanging out down there at the Rex's.
Right.
Was like, hey, you know what? It's my last year. I'm going to look around, and boy, is Kalani Sitake glad he did.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing that I thought of too when I heard the news, I thought maybe was there an NIL, type of tampering where it's like, hey, because especially right, she made a name for herself, right? Especially, sure. I mean, on another level, and so that's going to draw attention to you. So I wondered if, somebody came and shook something.
Maybe. I do know that BYU's guys are working hard the last 2 days to come up with some stuff to welcome her back.
Yeah.
But yeah, she's got a tough decision to make, but she's earned the opportunity to take a look around.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
And let's hope she comes back.
Right. Yeah.
Men's volleyball. Give us an update on men's volleyball.
Men's volleyball, unfortunately, was eliminated in the semifinals by Stanford. At Stanford, the Cougars finished the season 19-7 and a perfect 14-0 at the Smith Fieldhouse.
It's a great season. They missed on the NCAAs, but they were picked second to last in the MPSF. They took second and undefeated at home, put on a show.
That's got to be a good feeling.
That was a good season.
To say, I didn't lose. We didn't lose at home.
No, they played. They swept Stanford at home.
Especially for
I don't know if they swept them, but they beat them.
For the seniors, right? For the seniors to leave. I mean,
it's a young team too.
Yeah.
It's a rebuilding squad. Yeah. It was a good year for them and the head coach.
I know what it feels like to be in rebuilding years. And if you start off slow, and you pick things up, and you have momentum riding into the next season after that. It's a good feeling. It's a good feeling to overcome.
Sean Olmstead, 150 career wins at BYU. You got that done this season. Women's golf finished second at the WCC Championships. Alicia May Mateo named first team all-conference for the third straight year. They had a 7-shot lead after the first round, but Pepperdine's really good. They ranked 17th in the country, and the Cougars couldn't hold them off. It was their last WCC event ever for women's golf. It's now Big 12 golf.
How is that?
And so the reality comes, as each sport shuts down, the reality comes of, hey, the next thing is the big thing.
Next thing is the real thing, the big thing. How's golf in the Big 12?
It's good. It's competitive. Oklahoma State's been good. Texas is always good. But Carrie Roberts, who was on our show last week, believes BYU's Big 12 ready. Men's golf as well is Big 12 ready, and they've got a big week ahead.
I've heard, and I feel like a lot of our sports outside of football in the Big 12, sports. I would say because of the WCC preparing those tems to have it easier, I think, than basketball or football. And as I've had those discussions, a lot of at the end of those discussions, people say, you know what, I think those teams, BYU's track or golf or whatever, soccer, whatever the case may be, are probably better than a lot of those teams right now in the Big 12.
For sure. Jen Rockwood said her program's Big 12 ready. She's going to join us next month when the schedule comes out. But they'll be the first, along with women's volleyball, who's Big 12 ready. They'll be the first sports to compete in the Big 12, and then we'll wait for football, later in September.
When is that?
They start in August.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So they'll be the pioneers, first ones in.
Yeah.
Men's golf won the 58th Cougar Classic for the second straight season. They beat the field by 8 shots. They're at the WCC Championships in Bremerton, Washington. Same course as the women from last week. That's Thursday through Saturday of this week, and we extend Coach Brock Bank and the Cougars the best of luck. And how about softball?
Utah State at BYU right now on the BYU TV app. Utah Tech at BYU Wednesday, 5 p.m. Mountain. That's on BYU TV. And then San Diego at BYU Friday, 5 p.m. Mountain, doubleheader on BYU TV, on the BYU TV app. And then Saturday at 1 p.m. Mountain on the BYU TV app.
John on YouTube, thank you. BYU beat Stanford 3-1 on Friday, and then 3-0 on Saturday. So they swept the 2-game series. Baseball 17-21, but they're starting to hit the ball. They swept UNC Greensboro over the weekend. The bats are hot. They scored 46 runs during the 3-game series. 46. Greensboro didn't have any great pitching, but you still had to hit it.
Yeah, right.
Third baseman Austin Deming, 4 home runs, including a grand slam, 14 RBI collected over the series. Now, the awards just keep coming in for him. He's the WCC, Perfect Game, Collegiate Baseball Newspaper, and National Collegiate Baseball Writers Association Player of the Week.
Wow.
You're like almost president. You get one more, you're president. And this week, they got a huge series starting Thursday against Portland, back in conference play. They're one game out of second place in the loss column. Thursday night, 6 Mountain on the BYU TV app, and then Friday night, 6 Mountain on BYU TV. Saturday at 1 Mountain on BYU TV. Gary Scheide, Jason Shepard, and I will be on the call. That's a big series, and by the way, it's supposed to be in the 60s all 3 days, and 70 on Saturday, so the park will be lively without parkas. We want a park without parkas. That's what we got, and we look forward to baseball this week.
I think I might go to that game.
You should.
Now that I'm back down here in Orem, Provo, and
welcome back.
Yeah,
welcome to Utah County.
It feels really good to be back. But it also feels good. What feels good is this, hearing these stories, with Byron and again, I'm not like most athletes, where most of our athletes, they grow up watching and being fans. And so they had the luxury, to grow up watching the game or watching BYU and then, playing for them.
Right.
With me, it was just playing for them. And so hearing these stories I feel like a kid in a candy shop, and we all know how many cavities I have.
You spent a lot of time in the shop.
And I just have these moments, when I'm hearing these stories and I'm interacting and doing these things where like Coach Doman said, it felt surreal, and it feels surreal for me because I didn't have that opportunity, So this place is special. Lots of good memories are made. I still have memories, when I played. I have new memories now of watching the girls play. So yeah, save me a seat. Can I come up in the booth with you?
Yeah, sure. Pop up.
All right, I'm there.
Hey, let's pitch these before we do our closing thoughts. These bobbleheads right here. You can get half price on these babies. They're a great gift for the kids, and the holidays are coming up. It's always just around the corner. Anyway, use the hashtag or the code YSGuys, YSGuys50. That's the promo code that can get you 50% off each one of these Cosmos. Football, there's Elvis football, soccer, basketball, volleyball, and baseball. They're pretty cool. And anyway, they're like $10 once you use the promo code WiseGuys, YSGuys50 at the BYU store. So we're trying to help you with your holiday shopping.
And let's not forget your birthday. Happy birthday.
Oh, thank you.
Happy birthday.
Appreciate that. Speaking of April 25th, on this day, and let's wrap up with this. We love doing it because it's amazing, our history. And some of the craziest things and some of the most important things, they're all over the calendar, and you pop up, and until you hear them, you're like, oh, wow, that happened on this day back in whatever. Mm-hmm. So here we are on April 25th, and on this day in 1792, the guillotine was first used in France at the expense of highwayman Nicolas Peltier. The first one to the guillotine. Now, here's the thing. Let's say you were in a meeting and you're trying to come up with new ways to do destructive things. And some guy goes, hey, I got an idea. What about the guillotine? And then everyone votes that that's a great idea. And then they start using it.
I shouldn't be laughing.
Well, we're just thinking about the ideology of back then of when that seemed like a good idea.
Somebody was mad.
All right, let's move on.
Like really mad.
1876 on this day.
First Cubs game in the National League beat Louisville 4-0.
And you know what? This show keeps tabs on big days in Cub history. 1901, New York becomes the first state to require automobile license plates. We all have them. On this day, 1901, New York said, hey, here we go.
Interesting. 1976, Cubs center fielder Rick Monday rescues the U.S. flag from two fans who were on the field trying to set it on fire.
I remember seeing this as a kid, and I've seen it since. They're out there trying to light it on fire in the outfield, and he runs and grabs it. That's and crazy. Takes off. Rick Monday, I think he was a big Dodger, but he was for the Cubs. 1976, 1990, the Hubble telescopes placed into orbit by the Space Shuttle Discovery. All the amazing pictures that come back from that telescope. It was put up there in 1990.
I probably shouldn't comment on this because you know how I feel about space.
That's another show.
1994, Southern California receives 14 inches of snow.
What? Yeah.
So I was born in 88, so I was, 6?
Yeah.
I know back home.
Do you remember?
No. So I know back home in San Francisco, when it gets to like 75 degrees, people have heat strokes, you know, because they're not used to it. So people had to be flipping out about this.
I remember on my mission in Texas, when it just got a little bit of snow, the whole place shut down. They're like,
snow day?
We don't even have any snow trucks. We don't even invest in that stuff. I can only imagine Southern California with 14 inches of snow. Probably didn't stick around very long, but for a few hours, probably just paralyzed the whole place.
Yeah. Well, I have another comment about that too. It's probably man-made snow, so.
Because it's Hollywood. The snow wasn't just in Hollywood. All right, birthdays on this day, April 25th, 1874. Guglielmo Marconi, the pioneer of radio. We all have grown up with the radio. It had to start somewhere. The guy who helped start it was born on this day in 1874.
Well, thank you for him. He's giving us some jobs. 1917, Ella Fitzgerald.
Yeah.
I don't know who that is.
She's a great singer.
Oh, okay.
We're going to hear a quote from her in a minute. Okay. Al Pacino, 1940.
I know of him.
Yeah, you know, The Godfather.
Yeah. I haven't seen any movies, honestly.
You haven't seen any Al Pacino movies?
Nope. No.
He's got a lot of them.
Well, I haven't seen
seems
any
like
Godfathers.
stereotype or mob movies.
Yeah.
But he's in a bunch of movies.
I've seen movies of him, but I haven't seen The Godfather. And my mom's favorite movie is Godfather, which is interesting.
That is interesting. She's a fascinating woman.
Yeah. Hey, you know, she raised me alone, so she is fascinating. 1962, Adam Silver, NBA commissioner.
Yeah.
Born.
He's got his hand on a whole lot of things, the direction of the NBA. 1967, our friend Jane Clayson, born on April 25th. We hung out together in college, and she went on to a big broadcasting career and is doing great. So 1967. Our Wise Guys inspirational quote of the week is from Ella Fitzgerald, who said, "Just don't give up trying to do what you really want to do. Where there's love and inspiration, I don't think you can go wrong." Does that not sum up your football career?
It does. Man.
Just keep doing what you think you can do. And if there's love and inspiration, you can't go wrong. And it took you to junior college, took you to BYU. It took you to the secondary against Oklahoma when you beat the number 3 Sooners in front of 80,000 Sooner fans and Dallas Cowboy Stadium and all that other stuff.
I remember when San Diego, this quote reminds me of San Diego State taking my scholarship away. And there's a period where you have to sign as a junior college or else, you know, schools will take back the scholarship. And I had Sacramento State was the only one I had left because I had told other schools I was committed. And I remember crying and thinking this is my opportunity. My opportunity to go D1 was gone.
Because the Aztecs pulled the scholarship?
Yep. And there was so little time to get my name out there and start, getting schools to look at me. And I remember I started fasting. First, I apologized to God. I said, sorry for making moves without you. And then I started fasting.
Those are words to live by.
I started fasting, and I started having dreams with that I was playing in a stadium with the white helmet and blue jersey.
Really?
And I remember my mom.
And you didn't think it was Penn State?
I didn't know what it was. But you know what? It was Lavelle Edwards Stadium. I didn't know I just didn't know at the time. And so Sacramento State comes, and my mom's like crying, like, please go there. And I'm like, they don't go to a white helmet and a blue jersey. And
it's like, what are you, nuts?
And I remember my grandma was like, I'm proud of you for sticking the course and going D1. She didn't know. Nobody knew at the time I was having these dreams. I didn't, but my grandma was said the same thing with this quote, like, I'm proud of you because everybody else in the family is telling you to, go a route that you don't want to go. And
so you're telling me that you followed your dreams?
I did.
Yeah.
I followed Jesus first. I followed God first, and He led me to my dreams.
Thanks for pinch hitting on the Wise Guys.
Anytime.
This is part of that, by the way. This is part of that. thank Brandon Doman and Byron Rex as well. Good luck to the Cougars in the NFL draft coming this weekend. We'll recap it all with Johnny Harleen next week on The Wise Guys. The podcast will be up tomorrow. We encourage you to share it with your friends. And again, please go to our site on YouTube and subscribe. It's free. And at wiseguys.com, you can sign up for the free newsletter. We'll give you highlights of each show sent to you each week. And then look for our little clips up on YouTube as well as we conquer the world. What a great show tonight.
This was good,
Byron was awesome. Who knew that Keaton Slovis and Isaac were sitting in the next room watching the NBA playoffs while we're talking to Byron about his experience carting off Isaac at the Coliseum. I mean, you can't plan that stuff.
I know.
And then Doman sitting in the kitchen when the 49ers are announced on TV that they're taking him, and he doesn't even know it. The family erupts in the other room, and that's real stuff.
Yeah, good stuff.
And your stuff is classic as well. So thank you very much. The great Brian Logan. Blaine will be back next week. I'm Dave McCann. Thanks for listening to The Wise Guys. Have a great week, and we'll see you next week.